Hi everyone. So continuing with our series on Langchain, today let's try and build a simple LLM application, see how it works, what are the different components and how can we get started. So what we are using here is a default GitHub repo that's provided by Langchain, and I'm using Google Colab to run it, to execute it. So this is basically a Jupyter notebook. We'll go through the content in this. I'll put a link in the chat in the section description below with the link of the GitHub so that you can go and check it out. So let's get started. Now, as we discussed in the previous segment, in the previous video, that Langchain has some key components, it works on different things. So how do we get started, or how do we build a simple app, right? So first of all, you need to install your packages, right? So in Jupyter, something like this is good enough to get it done. Now you may need different packages as well. Langchain has multiple packages like Langchain, Langchain Core, Langchain Community. We'll see how each one of those get into the picture. Then once you have this installed, so I ran it, you can see I have the package installed, it got completed. Now the second thing is you can hook up a Langsmith telemetry to it. So we saw that in the ecosystem. Langsmith is used for observing logs and things like that. So if you want to capture some logs in Langsmith and do that, so all you have to do is just add your tracing parameter, API key, project name, and this is the default code that goes in, right? So whatever you want to import, whatever you want to do, that you can do it through Langchain with respect to logging, but we won't be utilizing it today. Let's get started with step 1, that is the primary step. So in order to build an LLM application, first thing is you need to hook it up with a LLM, right? So without an LLM you cannot build it. So now Langchain supports multiple integrations, so you can go in and hook it up with any of the provider based LLMs, right? So what we are using here is a chat OpenAI. So I have my own instance of OpenAI running, in which I have a GPT-4 mini model, which is tying back to a GPT-4 model. And I've already built a model context for it, so I'm not going to execute this with my own key and stuff. So I have my provider as OpenAI. So I went in and I installed these packages and I started utilizing it here. Now if you have different vendors, right, so all you have to do is just let me bring that up. So all you have to do is get on here. So this is a Langchain page on build an agent, right? So you see it provides all the descriptions and everything in here. So if you just come down, so this is how all the different models are defined, right? So you can use OpenAI, which we are doing in our case. If I want, I can use Anthropic, Azure, Google Gemini, Vertex, AWS, IBM, all of these, right? So all of these are readily available, they can be utilized, we can use any of these particular models. So we are using OpenAI, so it can hook to any other model that we need. So now my model has the context of my LLM, right? So let's get started from here. So what we're trying to do is first we'll build a sort of message interface, right? So prompt comes in, so we know that we have different types of messages like system message, human message, AI message. System message is something that defines how your bot responds, some generic instructions around it, and your human message is basically the prompt that comes in, right? So here what we are doing is we are creating a messages array. We are sending it a content like translate the following from English to Italian, right? So this is now my simple instruction to the LLM application that you need to do a translation job, and this is the human prompt that's coming in. So basically hi needs to be translated from English to Italian here. If I just run this, right, so you can see I got a AI message back, right? So that's the message that is responded by my AI. So that's the third type of message we have here. And the content is Xiao, right? So that's basically the translation of hi from English to Italian. And then it gives you a ton load of other information. What is the number of tokens utilized, how many tokens were in prompt, total tokens, and everything. So this is how you send in a simple prompt, get a data back, right, from the model using Langchain. Now let's move ahead and see a couple of variants of it. Right? So things like these can be utilized to execute it as well. So you can simply say model.invoke, hello, you don't have to build all this. Separately, it's going to do the add model.invoke role. So if your system message is already there in the context, all these things sort of start working, right? Now, next let's look at one more important topic, that's streaming. So it's important to stream your response, right? So if I'm building a chatbot in an LLM application, my user is not going to wait for the whole response to load at once. So we need to make sure that it gets streamed. So what we've done here is that, okay, from the model stream, so I'm sending again my messages array there, right? So I'm reading out each token as soon as it is being returned using the stream method, and after the token I'm appending a character, right, like this, right, so that I know, okay, what is the size of the tokens that are being streamed. So if I just execute it, so you can see this is the size of the tokens that are being sent out. So this is sent as one token, this is sent as one token, and this is sent as one token. So if I'll see in a streaming interface, it will come in as C, then it will start typing IAO, then it will type an exclamation. So that's how it starts streaming the content out. Now let's have a quick look at prompt templates, what exactly they are. So we'll deep dive into this topic specifically in another video which will be dedicated on prompt templates. So in this, what we are showing you is, okay, I have a system template which is a dynamic prompt and which needs to be auto updated on basis of some dynamic variables. So how do I do it, right? How do I make that prompt reusable? So we go in, we have this particular library for prompts from which we import a class called as chat prompt template. Now I've defined this particular prompt template here. You see this particular thing that is done with respect to the braces, language, and this. Now what it has done is that earlier I was having a static prompt which said that, okay, I need to translate from English to Italian only, right? But now it's more dynamic in nature, and I can translate from English to any dynamic language that comes in as input, right? So I go in, I create a prompt template, and using the chat prompt template from this particular message, I create this, right? So you can say this is a system message, this is the system template, this is the user, and the text that will come from the user, right? Now let's go to the next section. So let me get this executed. So my prompt template is ready. I'll come in here and I'm going to invoke my model with language Italian and text hi. Right, so I've segregated my prompt into two different pieces here. So now if I send the language as Italian and text as hi, it's going to translate from English to Italian and give me the response. So now this is still just the chat prompt value that we have here. Now if I do it, suppose English to Hindi, do this, so my prompt gets modified automatically. So this is how it becomes dynamic in nature, right? So if you see here, then this is just a chat prompt value array that we are getting it out. But if I want to see the messages separately, just this message array, so all I have to do is use this particular method. So it becomes helpful when we are building end-to-end complex applications. It becomes easier to read out these particular messages as array. And once this is done, I'm using my prompt, and my prompt was always a hi, right? So I go in, I send this, and it starts giving it in Hindi, right? So this is how the whole thing gets done, right? This is how the whole thing gets involved. So it's as simple as this, utilizing a prompt template, modifying it from one to the other, translating it from here to here. So that's how it basically works out. Now if I change it back to suppose something like France, or I would say French, right? So let's go and execute it. It should say salute. So with Hindi it was giving some other data, not translation, because it might not have been trained on that data. That's why I went back to French here. So this is how you can use dynamic prompts, right? And start building your applications around it. So that's the pretty much overview of a simple LLM interaction. So what we saw in this video was, number one, you go and define your model, you see how you need to link it back to a specific chat model, a specific LLM. Then you build your messages array, you send it to the LLM, you get the response out. And then to modulate it, you can stream your response, you You can use prompt templates to make your system message more dynamic on basis of user input. So that was a simple LLM application, how you can build those smaller components into Langchain. In the next videos, in the upcoming videos, we'll start diving a bit deeper, trying to build a chatbot, building an agent, seeing the memories and all those different things. So keep following, subscribe, comment any questions that you might have, and see you next time.